Lady's time has expired. Gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Loudermilk, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Begg, thank you for being here today. We're in interesting times in this country. And one thing of the 10 years that I have been in Congress, I have learned is that this city and the government loves status quo. And part of the status quo is a lot of times turning your head to a problem or sticking your head in the sand and just ignoring it. But as over the past 10 years, one of my priorities has been finding areas of waste and fraud within our government. And that has been a priority of this administration. That has upended the status quo, and it has a lot of people uncomfortable. But they should be. But one thing that I have learned is through my 10 years in Congress, we've uncovered a lot of areas of fraud and waste. But they still exist today because we're handcuffed by our own laws that we can't get rid of the perpetrators of the fraud and waste because they're protected. And that's why I have introduced again for the 6 years now, the Merit Act, which would reform our employment laws and policies in the federal government to allow for a reasonable time of termination of bad employees, not the current 24 to 48 months. And I just bring that up because regardless of what you find or what we find, unless we can get rid of those who are doing these the wasteful spending of taxpayer dollars, we're never going to do anything. But what this city is good of is doing oversight and reports and rarely fixing problems. So, Mr. Begg, HUD Secretary Turner recently announced the creation of a DOGE task force to help uncover the waste, fraud, and abuse that we all want to get rid of. What is the relationship of this task force to your office and the HUD IG?
We have coordinated at a high level with the HUD DOGE lead and offered to collaborate on combating fraud, waste, and abuse in the department. We've offered examples of significant open HUD recommendations that, if action was taken on them, would generate significant cost savings. And so we've been communicative with the HUD DOGE team lead and the HUD leadership about our interest in working together to prevent fraud, waste, and abuse.
Thank you. Can you explain the difference between fraud and fraud risk?
Well, fraud is something, potential fraud and fraud risk is something that can be identified in data, but verifying it and validating it and then adjudicating it in court requires a human effort beyond just a data exercise.
So how severe is a fraud risk at HUD?
It's significant. Many of HUD's programs are decentralized in terms of how the money moves. So it moves from HUD to a grantee, to a sub-grantee, to a contractor. Each time it goes through a layer, the risk of improper payments and fraud increases.
So how does that compare with the actual instances of fraud that you've seen?
It's hard to say. In some instances, we're asking to prove a negative here because we're not able to quantify the things that we don't know about, and without it, data sources for us to test against and to really come up with good estimates, which HUD's been unable to do for a long time, it's hard for us to quantify how much is out there that we're not able to see.
Is HUD responsible for mitigating fraud within its programs, or is fraud risk management largely delegated to the public housing authorities?
Well, HUD's responsible, we believe, under the law for managing fraud risk in its programs, and responsible for ensuring that its grantees have strong fraud risk management programs as well.
Okay. Over the years, HUD has struggled to incorporate common sense accountability measures into its programs. Why is that?
It's a good question. I think that the folks who are operating the programs at HUD are doing their best to incorporate, those common sense approaches. But many of the programs are designed for flexibility, and anytime flexibility is introduced in the use of funding, it creates opportunities for it to be misused. It's a difficult balance between flexible grant programs for communities and trying to put internal controls in place to make sure that the money is spent appropriately, but we think more can be done on the control side.
What else can HUD do to mitigate fraud risk?
Well, the first step, like I mentioned, is assessing each program for fraud. And this is a basic concept. Just sit down with the people who run the program, get it in front of a whiteboard and say, if I wanted to steal from it, how would I do it? And you'd list it all out. We could be part of that discussion as well. We investigate and help prosecute cases, and then think about how can you stop it within your program? What systems do you have in place? What potential controls are there to mitigate it? Test those and start the cycle over again.
All right, thank you. My time has run out, and I yield back.